Hey, crypto Twitter, and hello everybody else who's watching, YouTube or whatever. I think I'll probably put this on YouTube. So I'm just going to do a quick Q&A on a couple different topics of interest in the crypto world. Sorry, just getting synced up here. Okay, so first off, whether the fear of long-term Bitcoin gold price suppression by financial derivatives like futures is justified. I don't think so. I mean, really, you want to take a step back and ask what is money and why do these investments make sense, and you look at the case for Bitcoin and the issues around the scarcity and the supply and how it works and those kind of things. And I'm not too worried about it. Certainly, you don't want to underestimate the forces of markets. There's a lot of Bitcoin maximalists who have this kind of attitude of nothing can ever stop it no matter what. I think that's a little bit cocky when you're talking about all the crypto in the world being worth there's people that have as much money. You're talking about a couple $100 billion in today's money. So it certainly is a threat. The big financial systems could not kill Bitcoin, but they could certainly hamper adoption, and they could do things with the price that would make it so unappealing to so many people that it wouldn't work. But generally, market actors are looking for self-interest, and it's easier for people who understand Bitcoin to try and make money on the trend rather than trying to stop the trend or fight the trend. Very rarely does somebody look at something and say, "Wow, this could be really interesting. This could be good. Let's try and figure out a way to profit by destroying it." Usually, they figure out a way to profit by what is going on. Shout out to Raven Legend on Discord for Bittrex listing. Yeah, great job. A lot of community members. That was interesting. Raven Coin didn't pay for any Bittrex listing. It was just a group of community people. One lawyer volunteered to write an article about why it's not a security and that kind of thing. So that's good. I can talk more about. There's a couple other Raven comments in here. People can ask about that. I'm not a spokesperson for that coin, by the way, but happy to answer those questions. Turkey, lira, debasing currency, inflation, quantitative easing, jet, GDP, tariffs, global economy. Yeah, I mean this is the trend that we've seen, and I talked about this stuff for a long time. It just totally is unsustainable. The governments of the world just keep printing fake money, and those of us who study things like Bitcoin try to understand what is money, and that's an important question. You go back to these principles, the properties of money. It's got to be fungible. It's got to be accepted by people for goods and services. It's got to be durable. So that's why wheat and tulips make bad money. It's got to be divisible. The Bitcoin meets these properties very well. The things like the U.S. dollar meet these properties less well than Bitcoin, and that's increasing because the supply is not predictable and the scarcity is not as good. It's just being created out of thin air to pay for bad debt and bad banks and things like that. So it's totally unsustainable. It's great for crypto, but it's going to be a rocky global economy. It's just not going to be sustainable. It's kind of exciting too, because I think that it really will come crashing down. The old saying is the bigger they come, the harder they fall is true when it comes to currencies, because governments and currencies and money printers have so much ability to just keep this sham going that they're able to have a very large artificial house of cards. So when the global economy does come crashing down, it's going to be dramatic. It's not going to be the doom and gloom that people say. I don't think it'll necessarily lead to starvation in the streets or the kind of things that the governments like to say, because people are very resilient. There's better forms of money. Bitcoin's out there. You just kind of switch to Bitcoin and things work. And it doesn't happen instantly. I mean, there's a lot of ways. So I think that it's totally unsustainable. It's going to crash in our lifetimes. Not just crash, but completely collapse. The old system is broken. Aaron Day, when is the Periscope? Now. Here you go. Hopefully you're watching. Is there any hope? Upcoming Raven Fork. Let's see. Is there any hope for? Oh, I think he's just talking about hope for markets in general. It says rather than a specific project. Yeah, I can get to that. I think somebody else asked here about markets. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'll skip to this one till after. What security token do you see best to launch on? Polymath is not really a securities token platform. It is a securities token service provider that helps with AML KYC. They help companies or people issue securities tokens, and they are mainly focused on the Ethereum chain. But I think as an overall project, they're not. They market themselves as chain agnostic, so they could probably work on multiple chains. Ravencoin obviously is one option. I like Bitcoin quite a bit. Bitcoin is very good. because it's a very strong and stable chain, and there's several ways to issue assets on that. Omni layer, you could use RSK, which allows you to use Solidity, which works kind of like Ethereum, and there's a couple other ways. Ethereum is still a large chain. ERC is a leader, but there's a lot of issues with scaling and things like that. I'm cautious on Ethereum right now. Ethereum Classic is a little bit better, and then there's EOS, which has works a little bit differently. The consensus mechanism is different. It's probably better for large scale, very huge scale projects, maybe like a social media thing or something like that. They're doing some very interesting things. People who discount that project, I think, are making a mistake. EOS doesn't claim to have 10,000 nodes. They claim to have a different way of working things. Uh, so that's an interesting project. ADA is another one, but I kind of did that in order of how ready they are and that kind of thing. Hear more about government intrusion and how crypto will counter it. Government says I can't invest in what I want, such as being an accredited investor. SEC taxes wins freedom. Well, unfortunately, crypto doesn't solve a lot of these things by itself. I guess you could argue that it makes it easier to avoid some of these laws, but the laws are still the laws. You can't. A lot of people make a mistake of thinking that crypto makes it mean that they don't have to be an accredited investor anymore, and once there's securities tokens, they don't have to be accredited. Well, that's just a function of what type of security it is. You don't have to be accredited to buy Apple, and Apple is a security. You don't have to be accredited to buy Microsoft. That's a security. It depends whether they're registered or exempt securities, and crypto won't really change that. What will happen with crypto is that you're going to have it'll be a lot easier to be publicly traded like Apple or Microsoft. So you will have a lot more projects that you have access to, and you will be able to. But it won't be necessarily crypto that's doing that. The laws will be the same. It's just that it'll make it easier to do things under the law as a public company. Topic suggestion: value of having stable money protocol where business can feel secure. Yeah, I mean having stability is definitely really important, and that's one of the challenges with crypto in general. What is the bottom on most of these ICOs? Zero. A lot of them are gonna go to zero because they just don't have value, and they have some money, but once the holders of the tokens don't necessarily have any claim to that money or any fiduciary. Nobody has any fiduciary responsibility to them. They don't have any rights or claims to that money or anything that comes from that money. But most of the founders mean well, and they're probably going to try and make an effort to use that money to make the platforms have value. But it unfortunately won't work because of the economics behind it. So a lot of them are going to collapse to zero. There's some ways around that. There's ways that they might be able to save it. What I would do, and if you're running an ICO and you have cash, especially if you have more cash than your token is worth, I'd convert yourself to a security, convert it to a company, and say, okay, we're a company now, and everybody who held a token is now a shareholder, and then use that money to try and make a profitable business rather than trying to make a protocol that may or may not work. And that depends on the project. If you really believe your protocol will work, go ahead, go for it. But the bottom is unfortunately zero. Some of them are going to pull out. Some of them are going to survive. Some of them are going to do things clever. They may do a restructuring, like I said. But yeah, most, and I would say most, more than just most. Most is 50, over 50%. I think it's more like 90, 95%. Target, I don't know what that question is. Target of what? Markets are going to go up. They're going to go down. Overall, I think crypto markets will go up. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong. Anything you invest in crypto could go down to zero. You could lose all your money. It's risky. But I believe crypto as an overall category is going to go up quite a bit. How to transition from waiting for the moon through the bear market and creating value in the crypto? Okay, that's a great question. It is stressful times right now. If you are a holder, it can be stressful to see these big drops, particularly if people got in December or something like that. There are a lot of people out there who didn't even do anything stupid, and they're still facing massive drops. If you've made a few mistakes on top of that, I really feel for you. I really do. And I mean that seriously. It is very, very hard for many people. I've been a financial advisor in some form or another for 27 years, and I've been in crypto for 6. Believe me, I've seen it all. I've seen people lose homes and houses. I've seen people get in trouble with the government and IRS. I don't underestimate your pain if for those people who have lost. Getting through this market is tricky because I can't just say hold on and it'll be okay, because it really depends what you hold. Even if you hold Bitcoin, I might be wrong. But if you hold a lot of these ICOs that are down 90%, they may never go back. I don't have any words of encouragement for you. There are tokens that I know that are down 90%. If I held them, I would sell them. because the market doesn't care when you bought it. The market cares what it's worth now, and many of these things are still overvalued. Uh, the best things to do during a bear market is to build and focus. And if you have something where you can say, oh, good, now my competitors are hurting, I can go out there and build market share. That's what I'm doing with my business. It's almost encouraging because I say, yeah, it hurts, but it's hurting them more. And if you think you could do well in a Mad Max kind of world, I've used the Game of Thrones analogy quite a bit, but in a Mad Max kind of world, if you think you'd do well and you net and end up with market share because you could survive, because you're tough, because you're a survivor, get out there and survive, build your skills, make your contacts, get building. That's the best way to make it through a bear market. And if you are, by the flip side, if you say, "Oh, I don't have anything to build. All I do is trade," oh well, there's a signal for you. Don't trade. I already mentioned that before. Unless you really believe, anybody I can convince not to trade believes they're going to be, if you believe you're going to be a professional trader, fine, and you think you can do that, and you really want to do that as your vocation, fine. But if you just say, "Oh, I want to trade to get more Bitcoin," or "I want to trade to make more money," or "I want to trade to get into crypto," I think that's a bad strategy. And I'm not necessarily answering Jared's question. I'm talking very in general about not just his situation, anyone's situation. I don't know his situation, whether he's a trader or been hurt by the bear market or not. But in general, it's these markets are very volatile, and it is a shakeout. It's very healthy in some ways. I've said many times, I've publicly said that I'm way overexposed in crypto. I keep everything in crypto. I don't have fiat. So of course, these drops have effect. I also practice what I preach, which is don't put anything you can't afford to lose in crypto. Yeah, I have a lot of money, a lot of percentage of my money in crypto, but I can't afford to lose it. It'd be painful, but I would still be okay. My family is still going to eat, and that's what you need to be. You never put anything in crypto that you can't afford to lose. If you risk, I don't want to talk about my situation so much, but if you're in a situation where you have your lodging and your food, and if you have a family, your family taken care of, and those kind of things, don't risk crypto. If you're looking at the market every day right now, saying this is this is killing me, and if it goes down, and if I say, okay, what if they drop 50% from where they are? What if Bitcoin goes down to 2,500 today, and many alts disappear, and a whole bunch of those drop down another 50%? What does that do to you? If that really genuinely hurts you financially beyond just emotionally, like ow, then you need to scale back. You don't want to have money in crypto that you can't afford to lose. So that's an important step. Being diversified, being patient, being careful, learning everything that you can, trying to invest some time and effort into something that you have outcome on the direction. But be careful with that too. Don't jump into some ICO project, because no matter how hard you work, it can still fail. That's why Bitcoin is a great, at least within the crypto space, it's a great option. If you're black, you're subject to this technology. Okay, I read this article. It's talking about how white engineers built racist code. A little off the topic of what, but I'll answer it. The article seemed silly. Most people and articles talking about these race these days are not productive, in my opinion. There's a lot of, I guess I could do a whole another topic on this. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think there's a lot of unproductive discussions around race, particularly these kind of things where overly focus on race. Oh, because you're a white engineer, you didn't design facial recognition software, you made it racist. I don't really buy that. I don't think that. I think if you look for racism, you'll find it. I was passed up by a promotion again and again and again, and people who were right in my same training class, right with me, who had underperformed me, got promotion when I didn't, and it happened so much. And the interesting thing was, I am not a member of any minority group, but I had an interesting experience at that time. I wondered, I said, do they think I'm a certain religion or something? I just couldn't reconcile why I wouldn't be promoted when these other people who had objectively lower measurements than me would be. And I realize that's just the world is not a fair place. A lot of people who focus on fairness, are in a fantasy land. The world isn't fair, and it has a lot more to do with things other than race. Whether you know what kind of school you went to, having both parents in your home has been statistically shown to be, very very huge advantage, regardless of your race, as far as keeping you out of prison or having you have a good job or anything. The world isn't fair, and I'm if I would have been a minority at the time, I probably would have been almost positive that it was racism that didn't do it. So it's very easy to attribute things to racism, even things that are more blatant than that, where they seem like, oh, obviously racism. But I met a lot of engineers, and I would be just absolutely shocked. It's so flippant and easy for some clown from the Guardian to write this thing. Oh yeah, the engineers are racist. But really think about it. Think about the people you know in your life. You really think that an engineer sat down and was trying to think about how to make something racist? I don't think so. I think that we're better off focusing on other issues. Okay, so then I had a couple of these Raven questions. Right to reserve asset names. Yeah, okay, so asset names, Ravencoin is a token platform that allows users to issue tokens, and they could be securities tokens, gaming tokens, anything. The user decides the principal. I can issue a token and say, this is Bruce's collectible. This is security that represents a share in a stock. This is platinum sword in my game that I'm going to develop, whatever. The user creates it. And the user creates the name. Names are unique. Now, because this is an open source decentralized project, there's no home office. There is no Ravencoin home office, and if there was, they wouldn't have any ability to decide who gets what name. So it would be a bit of a land grab when the assets layer is released sometime after a certain number of blocks after October 31st, probably a day or two. Then people will be able to issue assets. And if you grab AAPL, or you grab Apple, or you grab Ocean, or you grab Popcorn, you got it. And so there is a challenge. If somebody grabs Facebook, Facebook can't do much about that. They may not even know who the holder of that asset is, and all they could do is try and find them and negotiate with them. There's nothing in the protocol level. They won't be able to call some Raven headquarter or development office or something and say they want to reserve it. And also that's the reason I believe that that it isn't done that way. There wasn't any way to put that in the code where you say, okay, we're going to set aside these 5,000 names, but not these five. That would just get sticky and messy. And who decides who? What if two people claim that they're really Google? And no, just free market's going to do it. So what I hope, and what is hopeful, and what would be cool, and what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and white hat some of those names myself. I'm going to register a few of them, and I would urge anybody to do that. I'm going to try and grab, if I can grab Google, or I can grab Facebook, and I can do it, and a couple hundred other people can do it, and we can grab a bunch of those, and then voluntary white hat, and offer to give them back at cost or free or whatever. I mean, if Google wants it, I'll give it to them for free if they really Google. But that would be a cool thing to do. That would be a cool thing to do. And then some aftermarket, somebody can make a website with a bunch of volunteers, and you could say, yeah, I'm a voluntary white hat. I registered these 100 domains. Here they are. Facebook, if you want it, you got it. Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, give me a buzz, it's yours. And that would be cool. That'd be fun, and it would be nice, and it would be great community way to solve it. I don't know another way to solve it. I don't think there's a way. You don't want a centralized authority. I mean, you could do, so you have this extreme, which is sort of the free market solution. The other extreme would be ICON. We're a centralized authority who says we're going to do this. The middle road would be you get some kind of trust or something. You put it in the code. Okay, these 10,000 names are there. You give it to the trust, and then the trust decides. Because the developers can't do it. It's open source project. It'd be like asking Bitcoin developers to say, hey, you decide who gets this or that. It's just messy. And I think even an option like that in between, how do you decide what names to get on there? Who has control? That's just all centralized crap. It doesn't belong in a true free and open source project. So this has just got to be a free-for-all. And if somebody will grab domains now the holders, if somebody goes and grabs Facebook, all that means is that they control the token to allow Ravencoin Facebook tokens to be created. It doesn't mean they're the real Facebook, obviously. Now the real Facebook is going to have an issue with that. They can't do anything centralized. There's nothing they can do to the code. There's nobody they can write a letter to say, hey, reassign this to me. All they can do is try and negotiate or sue that party. And certainly, just like if somebody made an Ethereum contract called Facebook, which you could do right now, Facebook's going to have an issue with that. There will be some squatting and some scams, but certainly no worse than anything else. I think that the trade-off with having it be totally free and open source is a great idea. Did I miss anything else? I think it might have been another one, Raven. Let's see here. Raven update, government intrusion. I think that's it. I thought there was one here that said, please put my mind at ease. Was that here? But I was going to say, no, I can't really do that because this is Game of Thrones, baby. This is crypto. I'm not going to put your mind at ease. Where was it? Market recovery. Need of a calming message. That's what it was. No, I'm not going to give you a calming message. This is crypto. My message is that it's in Game of Thrones. I mean, you know when you're a little kid and you watch Star Wars and you say, oh, that'd be cool to go to Mos Eisley Cantina. It's neat. They got those weird animals and stuff. Well, then you go there. It's not that cool. You got people getting their arm chopped off, people getting shot. That's crypto for you, man. No, you got no words of calming from me. You could lose every single penny you put in, especially if you put in Raven. Raven's a tiny little coin, little tiny market cap. It's radically experimental, and I love it. But you could lose every penny. So could I. I bought some. I mined some. But it's even riskier than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is much better bet. But Bitcoin is really risky too. You could lose all your money on Bitcoin. It's crazy. I'm not gonna. I'll talk about the technology and stuff, but I think that you don't want to be calm in these markets. The comfort zone is the kill zone. Don't get in the comfort zone. I hope that's useful. I had fun with this. It's funny, I almost didn't do this because there was only a tiny bit of responses, and then I had a whole bunch of people ask, where's my Periscope? So if you like these Periscopes, respond and ask questions, and I'll answer them. And if they're any use, then good. So thanks a lot. It was a real pleasure.